Everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's Missing, available on Amazon, coming soon to Amazon. Mia Missing 2 by Amazon as well. Double suspense, double the fun. Missing 2 on Amazon by Mia Molson's. Check it out, coming soon. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought by Illuminatical, think tank of the future. The Sweet Song is by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, available on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Song of Serena Wagner and High 10 Music. Check out the latest at high10music.com. We're here with the multi-talented singer, songwriter, actor, author, and TV host. Born and raised near Henry, Tennessee, and began his career at 3 riding horses, building Tinker Toy guitars, and at 12 played with Uncle Bill and the Hillbillies, and at 15 appeared on the Carl Tipton Show, and also met and opened for Loretta Lynn around 76 and 77, and also penned 1,500 songs and hit the national charts numerous of times. He also appeared in the Outlaw Prophet, and also has been on Discovery Channel, Travel Channel, and also an author as well too in Hills of Tennessee. But we'll be talking about not TV, not books, but it's going to be an album as well with that Muscle Shoals sound. We'll talk about that. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios somewhere in Muscle Shoals, although he may dispute that, the multi-talented singer, songwriter, actor, author, TV host, and he's got that Muscle Shoals sound, ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented Rick Revel. Rick, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here, brother.
Well, it's great to have you on board as well, too. You're a multi-talented singer, songwriter, actor, author, TV host, born and raised near Henry, Tennessee. Began a career at 3 riding horses, building Tinker Toy guitars, and at 12 played with the Uncle Bill and the Hillbillies, and at 15, Carl Tipton Show. You also met and opened up for Loretta Lynn. You appeared in the Outlaw Prophet, Dead Man's Hand, An American Journey, and you have a deep love for history as well. You have a couple of books, but we'll be talking about that Muscle Shoals sound. Before getting on, Rick, tell us how I first got started. Way back.
Well, way back when? We'll take it back.
Way back.
Yeah, 10 years old. When I was about 10 years old, we started playing the old guitar. I always wanted to play. You're talking about the Tinker Toy guitar. That's kind of what I would do. I'd see the TV commercials, and I always heard that guitar playing in the background. So I built a Tinker Toy guitar, and I guess Mom and Dad thought that was kind of cute. So later on in life, when I was 7 or 8 years old, my grandmother, she winds up getting me a guitar, but that was not good enough. The little plastic guitar she got, I believe there was a Sears and Rareback or Sears and Roebuck guitar, and the neck bowed on
the
it.
ones that came out of the catalog, in other words. So
right, and so the neck bowed, and we wound up. Mother didn't want to invest a whole lot of money into a guitar, so she got a borrowed True Tone guitar, and I played it, but it was just hard to play. The neck and the strings, it cut my fingers, and so it was not a very true neck. The frets cut my fingers, so it was just not a real good guitar. And so she saw that I was determined to learn, and she went and bought me a harmony guitar at a local music store. And from that, I started playing every Saturday night. We took some guitar lessons. But about 2 or 3 guitar lessons into it, the guy I was taking lessons from said, you're not paying attention. He said, I put all this on paper, and you're not playing what's on paper. You're playing it by ear. And he said, I think you'd be better off to go to where my dad plays every Saturday night. And his dad owned a place called the Little Opry. And I started going there playing, and started at age 12 playing, and by age 13, I started singing regular. That's when I started writing songs, and by age 15, I'm showing up in Nashville, Tennessee on TV shows and trying to sing some of my songs. So it caught on fairly early that I'd be a songwriter, and this caught the attention of Roy Acuff. I had a chance to visit with him backstage at the Ryman Auditorium when the Opry was still there. And he gave me some sage advice. He said, one thing you must do is come up with something unique, something that's a niche that sets you aside from everybody else. And of course, I didn't even know what that meant. I had to look up what unique and niche meant, And but I found out it had to be as different and original as possible. And in the beginning, that's hard to do because you you absorb everything around you. When you're young, you're learning. You're in that learning process, so you're absorbing from everybody and everything around you, and so you're around originality, but you're absorbing that in. But eventually, you absorb enough, and it's like a sponge. You get filled up, and when you squeeze the sponge, the water runs out, and that's so eventually, if you hang around the right people long enough and learn from the right people long enough, then eventually you start spilling out of your soul. You're feeding your soul, and eventually start spilling out. And so, by age 17 and 18, I'm writing for publishing companies in the Nashville area, pitching songs. And then something took place in 1976 called the Bicentennial Wagon Train. Now, of all things, you would not think a wagon train, especially something very few people have heard about, but would have a huge change or a turning point in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But on this wagon train, how I wound up getting on it, there was a man from Canada named Tom Destry. He had seen me doing a show with Freddie Fender. I don't know if you remember who Freddie Fender
I
is.
remember, yeah, before the teardrop falls. He was one of
Yes,
my
yes,
favorites back in the day. Yes.
yes.
Lonely, was it Wasted Days, Wasted Night? That's another one.
Yes, that was his big songs. And so I opened a show for him in Jackson, Tennessee at the Oman Coliseum there and Oman Arena. And I went there, uh, opened the show. This man from Canada was there, Tom Destry. He said, "Man, I love your voice," and such and so forth. So we became friends. He was the original Jolly Green Giant. That was his claim to fame. Had a big, deep
Really?
voice,
The
big,
voice of
tall
it?
guy from Canada. Yeah.
Oh
And
my goodness. Ho, ho, ho.
oh, ho, ho. And every time we did a show, he would do that during the show. He would talk about being the original Jolly Green Giant and do that as part of the show. But the event that we put together was called the Spirit of '76 Wild West Show, and we did our first show in Memphis, Tennessee, down at Lakeland, and the whole overall response was really good. Everybody came up after the show and said, "This is refreshing." And I've been a singing cowboy fan all my life. I grew up with Roy Rogers and Gene Autry, and so that was what I grew up seeing. And so we stylized the whole show around that type of thing, that Western feel. So everybody in the wagon train invited me to be a part of it. And so I joined the wagon train at Memphis, Tennessee, rode all the way to Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. And on the wagon train was a man named Mooney Lynn, the husband of Loretta Lynn. He was the
Mm-hmm.
assistant wagon master. We got to know one another. And in Nashville, Tennessee, at Percy Priest Park, Loretta came out and sang for us. And I
Nice.
got a chance to meet her then, which eventually led to, after the wagon train's over, the following year, we have a reunion at the ranch, Bicentennial Wagon Train reunion. And then they invite me to start working at the ranch. And I had something I did on the wagon train. Every night I'd play around the campfire. And so as I would sing around the campfire, the crowd kept growing and growing, not only the wagon train followers, but we had local people that would come out and listen to me sing. And sometimes we'd have, a handful of people, and sometimes we could have 50 to 75 people huddled around the campfire listening to us sing.
Oh, wow.
And the time we got to Loretta Lynn's ranch and started doing the same thing, it began to grow to where we're having 100 to 150 to 200 people trying to gather around a campfire, and nobody and people can't hear. So they built me a stage, and we got the sound system. And before long, the show keeps growing and growing, and they could see that their attendance to the ranch was growing, and
Wow.
they gave me a bit of credit for that and said, "Hey, we see that we need to have entertainment here. They're coming to see Loretta, but Loretta's always on the road,
Mm-hmm.
and we need entertainment here to hold them and give them something." So I became the entertainment director. Started putting on Wild West gunfights there, the old singing cowboy thing. And so I would sing for them and do the old gunfights, and um, it just caught on. And this grew into me doing more things for the Tennessee State Museum eventually. When I was in Valley Forge, I also met a gentleman by the name of Mike Tully, who had an advertising agency. He heard my music, saw that I was a songwriter. He challenged me to write some jingles, which is a song about a product, uh, for some of his clients. So I began flying back and forth, flying from Nashville, Tennessee to Philadelphia, because Philly and Valley Forge are not too far apart. Then I would go there and to his place, and his home was actually his property bordered the Valley Forge Park, National Park. And I'd go there and we would record my songs and got to know the family real well and a lot of the people in the area. So we would go to Valley Forge. I've always been a lover of history. I would have never done the bicentennial wagon train had I not. And so I
Mm-hmm.
wound up there at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania at the Potts House. And that was General George Washington's headquarters. And
Interesting.
I'd always heard the story about George Washington going out into the woods to pray. And I wanted to know where that stump was because there was a stump supposedly that he knelt next to, made an altar out of a stump. And I wanted to see where that stump was. So I asked a park ranger to take me there. So he took me into the vicinity to where he believed the stump was, and there was remnants of an old stump there. So we felt that's possibly where it was. So he walks off and leaves me. And as I stand there, I just get that feeling. I have that there's a presence. There's something there, someone there. And I kept hearing this voice, tell my story, tell my story. And it took a few years for that to really sink in, but eventually I began to tell that story. And I began portraying George Washington, General George Washington, as I would travel around and telling his Valley Forge experience. And I've done David Crockett and a lot of other historical characters. I do Meriwether Lewis. So I began the acting thing, but I'm doing it as historical characters
Ah,
and never knew where that would take me. But it's actually done real well.
You did really well too. You also have been in The Outlaw Prophet, The Dead Man's Hand, and American Journey, and of course you were also in the Masters Designer as well too. So you've been in some works as well too, and had a lot of excellent acclaim.
Yeah, the Master's Hand that video that film was a that won a international Telly Award. I did George Washington in that one, and then so the actual film itself, Master's Design, that won an award, and then The Dead Man's Hand, I won an award for Best Actor in that. It also picked up Best Short Western because it's considered a short movie. So actually, it's 48 minutes long, so it's considered a short.
Okay.
But I actually did get an actor's award and a movie award for that both. So the film picked up a little award. So that was exciting. What's neat is you grow up seeing Gene Autry and Roy Rogers, and you having all these heroes, and then eventually have the opportunity to produce a Western movie yourself and be in it. And it's very rewarding to be able to do those things and see your dreams kind of come true around you. But I will tell you, as a motivational thing, if you deny yourself that opportunity, then it's your fault, nobody else's.
That's a good point.
You have to push forward and keep finding the right people that'll work with you on things, and then eventually your dreams can come true. But it's like a scriptural thing. The Bible says faith without works is dead. You have to have faith, but it takes that work, it takes that effort to make it happen. So that's been my life. I'll come up with things that I want to do, and I'm told many times it can't be done, but you keep pushing forward till it happens. And it may not always turn out exactly like you wished it would. The journey with the music industry and everything else, it's driven by money. It's a money industry. It's a business, and that's what so many people. I guess the consumer, the viewer, the listener, they get lost in the shovel. They don't really realize they'll see a movie, let's say Coal Miner's Daughter,
Mm-hmm.
about Loretta. I was there at the ranch when they filmed the movie. I got the opportunity to be in and around all the filming of it. And the one thing it taught me was Yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into the movie, but when I had a chance to sit down and watch it, in less than 2 hours time, the duration of that film, they showed her going from a nobody to a somebody and becoming basically the queen of country music. She makes this rise to the top, and it all happens in less than 2 hours. And it doesn't happen that way. Now, was that the
Sure.
story of her life? Yes, but it doesn't happen in 2 hours. It takes a long time. They're showing her life, and it's compressed. What you're seeing is a compressed version of her life, what took place. It took several years for this to evolve. And so the Johnny Q public, they'll see this movie and they think, well, same thing's going to happen for you. It might and it might not. The industry has changed tremendously. She went out and she would go to the radio stations promoting her record. And early on, when I got involved in the music business, you could still do that. And I did radio tours like that. I literally got on the road, inspired by her. I'd get on the road and I'd drive till I saw a radio tower somewhere, and I'd drive up to the tower. I would get out and I would visit at the radio station. At that time, they had a program director at that radio station. They had disc jockeys at that radio station. So there was always somebody usually there doing a board
Hmm.
shift. I was a DJ at one time, so I knew about all this stuff. So I'd go in, we'd do the interview. Can't do that today, Bubba. You can't. Uh,
Hmm.
Most of the radio stations are automated. So just a handful of stations have a program director on spot at that
Hmm.
location. And very few have live DJs anymore. You use now most everything's pre-recorded, piped in, and that's what you hear. You think it's local, but it's not. And so you can't go and do a radio tour anymore, hardly. It's harder to do that. It is splintered up into internet radio. So you do Zoom calls with them, you
Uh-huh.
do cell phone calls with them, and that's
Hmm.
the way you do your interviews today. So, and you have very little money behind you because we're all independents now, where if you have a major record label, they're paying for everything. So it's changed completely from when 40, 50 years ago when I was doing all this then in Nashville, it's changed. So how we approach it today is totally different. Being self-contained is very important. If you depend on other people to do it, it's probably not going to get done. So you need to be able, you have to educate yourself. Don't be naive that you're just going to play somewhere, somebody's going to walk up and discover you. It has happened. But I'll give you an example. Uh, you've heard of Jerry Reed. You,
Oh
oh,
yes, not
Jerry
just a
Reed.
country singer, but smoking a batty. He's a
So
wonderful
great.
actor, by the
Yes.
way.
Great actor, great guitar player. But he played in Atlanta, Georgia forever and ever. He had two or three label deals, and he'd get them, he'd lose them, he'd get them, then lose them. And this went on for 4 or 5 years. It was a roller coaster in his life. And it just things would happen, and then it would crash, and it would happen, then it would crash. And then somebody told Chet Atkins about him, and Chet went down there and listened to him. And once he signed Jerry up, then the rest is musical history. But it took a while for that to happen. Once he did get on a major record label, he was gone, buddy. And then he, started doing the movies with Burt Reynolds and become a household legend. Um, that's what you have to keep in mind. It doesn't just happen overnight. But as the story is told, a lot of people say, "Oh, Chet Atkins discovered him, and it was all over." But he had all these dry periods, this roller coaster period before Chet Atkins ever found him. So you have to get the whole story. Because if
Mhm.
you get just a piece of the story, you'll think, "Oh, he had it easy." This is not easy, buddy. This is not easy for
Yeah,
anybody.
something you're a living testament to it, Rick, as well, too. And I'm gonna say one thing. I've had my ups and downs. I've had my dry periods, and of course, we talked about on the air. This happened just happened out of the blue. So up, down, everything else, and of course, not just with your that Muscle Shoals sound, not just being in movies, but also, it's the best part. you being an author, which I should be doing. We'll talk more about that with Rick Revel. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by SonicWeb Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. SonicWeb Studios is the answer. SonicWeb Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon, paperback, and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love you to first go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has gotten great reviews and even endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forrest Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for It Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Coming soon, Missing 2 by Mia Molson-Zia, available soon on Amazon. Double suspense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Illumifco, think tank of the future, brings scientists and engineers together from all over the world, creating a method to construct a renewable generator. This unique product operates on a closed loop system, generating more energy internally that needs to function. The electricity can be used to run everything from homes, power grids, phones, laptops. Its power source is renewable, highly scalable, and self-regenerating. Visit facebook.com/Illumiftical. That's ELLUMENIPTICAL today. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, including 30 exquisite paintings and King David's songs. The Sweet Psalmist gives a new perspective on David growing up as a shepherd and his turbulent yet complicated relationship with King Saul, and story of love, betrayal, repentance, hope, and more. Visit The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner. Make sure you check it out on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also brought by High Time Music, featuring Smash Hit Baby Come Back. New music coming soon. Check it out. HighTimeMusic.com. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. The MikeWagnerShow.com. Her 40 podcast platforms, over 100 countries. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Spreaker, and more for great gift ideas. Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast, t-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Great books, merchandise, and more. And soon Missing 2, Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Check it out today. We're here with the multi-talented singer, songwriter, actor, author, TV host, and more, Rick Revel, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we talk about that Muscle Shoal sound, which I'm looking forward to, you also did some books. I like to see you, come out with a book like this. And you've got one called In the Hills of Tennessee and the Mint Julep Letters. And tell us more about that.
Well, the Mint Julep is about Captain Todd Carter. He was involved at the Battle of Franklin. Long story short, he left in 1861 to fight in the Civil War for the Confederacy. So he leaves home and does not return home till November 30th of 1864. He stays gone that entire time, and he comes home to die. He literally, when the Battle of Franklin takes place, it takes place at his home unexpectedly.
Oh, my goodness.
The Union Army entrenches around his home. And, of course, the Army didn't realize it was his home. But when he's marching across the field, he sees the trenches, and it's in his farm field. And he charges his horse across the field out of anger, and he's cut down right before he gets to the entrenchment. But the entire book kind of fills in all the blanks of the story. He was called the Mint Julep because he wrote for a newspaper. He was a writer, and he would write his memoirs and the stories, and his pen name was the Mint Julep. He did not want his real name announced for fear that retribution would happen upon his family, because Franklin was Union occupied at the time. And then In the Hills of Tennessee is about Jack Henson, who was considered a sniper. He was a civilian, but there was the Union Army actually murdered a couple of his sons, and so out of revenge, he set out until he took out the ones that murdered his children. And from there, he became a wanted man, an outlaw, and he killed over 130 Union soldiers and officers off and on during the course of the war. So it's a very intriguing story. There's a lot of espionage in it, but they tried to track him down and never did catch him. So it's quite the interesting story. And he even captured a couple of on the Tennessee River, even captured a couple of gunboats. So it's interesting how one man was able to do that. So it's an interesting book, In the Hills of Tennessee. So I like to write books, but it's very time consuming. I have two more that I want to follow up with that'll be
Oh,
followed up
nice.
in a series of the In the Hills of Tennessee that tell more about what happened to him. So I have that up and coming, hopefully. But right now, television is a lot of my focus, along with the Muscle Shoals sound in my music. To make a long story short, on one other subject, I'm kind of on a comeback trail. My mom and dad both got sick at the same time, and they had asked me early on, if we do not want to spend our time in a nursing home, would you take care of us in our elder years? And they had done so much to help me on my journey forward growing up that I said, sure, that's my responsibility. I don't want somebody else to do it. So they actually both got sick at the same time, not realizing that would happen. And for 5 years, that I just spent all my life taking care of them. Don't regret a moment of it. But for 5 years, I had to take care of my family, and so
Very
I had to
important.
walk away from the music business and everything. Both of them passed away, and so now it's time for me to get my life back and figure out what I'm going to do. And so I'd written the book In the Hills of Tennessee, started with it, and I did a couple of I did some tourism videos for Stewart County where I'd written the book that where the subject took place in the book, and they wanted me to do some things for tourism. So I shot those films. So we shot 4 different videos, and they won some awards in the state of Tennessee for tourism. And the attention began to grow a little bit. So the guy that produced the shows at the time said, if you had an opportunity to do your own television show, what would you do?
Mm-hmm.
And I had this idea for a long time. So I said, I'd like to produce a show called History Highway. And it's where I drive down the road and I go to these historical markers. Across the United States, there's 140,000 plus of these historical markers.
Oh,
And it's the
wow.
big metal markers alongside the road. And you pull up to that historical marker and it tells you what took place there. So my concept was drive to that location, get out, go to the sign, peel back the layers of the onion to tell you what took place there. And we chose to do it in a canary yellow 55 Chevy. So it's pretty dang cool. And so we'll pull up to the sign, get out of that incredible looking car, and we'll tell you the story. And we've done stories on the guy that invented the first wireless phone, which is in 1890.
1890 wireless
18 and
phone.
90. And he
Oh
lived in
my
Murray,
goodness.
Kentucky.
So,
He lived
so
in Murray, Kentucky. The forerunner of what you have in your hand was created in 1890. Now, his
wow.
concept was totally different than you might think, but it's kind of interesting. And then they also, because of the way he did it, there's a lot of preliminaries to the establishment of radio. So some even attribute the fact that radio came from some of his ideas and concepts also. And he was just a simple man that lived in Murray, Kentucky. Very interesting story. And so that was one of our was in the pilot of the show. But since then, we've done stories on Frank and Jesse James, for instance. Everybody knows who Frank and Jesse James is. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody, Hollywood especially, they try to tell the story that all the things took place west of the Mississippi. And that's the story we normally see. But over half of their outlaw career, we'll call it, it took place east of the Mississippi, up in Kentucky, Tennessee. He went as far north as West Virginia to rob a bank.
How do you like that? Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
My
so
my
we
in-laws
tell.
lived in West Virginia. That it really hits home for me.
Yeah, so what we do, we try to take and tell. I think it's Huntington, West Virginia, and we try to take and tell the rest of the story, like Paul Harvey. We try to tell some of the, and we finish telling the story that only The History Channel a lot of times will just tell you half the truth. They won't finish telling you the rest of the story because there's some politically correct reason they won't do it. And we try to tell you the rest of the story. And so we've done that with multiple things, and we've actually scored some pretty good hits on telling different stories. While I was in Natchez, Mississippi, believe it or not, and this episode is not out yet, so I can't tell you a lot about it. But I did discover the Natchez Indians. That's what Natchez, Mississippi is named after, the Natchez Indians. The Natchez Trace, if you've heard of it, it's named after the Natchez Indians.
Hmm.
The French, as they were settling in and had come up from New Orleans, as the French were coming up the Mississippi River, they found the tribe there, the Natchez tribe, which were descendants of the mound builders. When they went there, they had a Jesuit priest with them.
Interesting.
And the Jesuit priest was trying to educate and, always try to convert to Christianity the natives. And so he was there. That was his mission. And while he's there, there's a roaring in the woods, a big loud. It's a big loud sound, and he wanted to know, what is this beast, this sound that's out in the woods? And they said, oh, we hear that all the time. We've seen it. It was a big hairy creature, and from what we gather, and they have this celebration every year down in Natchez, Mississippi. They feel it was the first written account of a Bigfoot sighting.
I was just going to say that Bigfoot, yes,
by a white person, which was the Jesuit priest. So this is back in the 1700s. So this is an account, probably the earliest written account that we could find. So we do stories like that are very intriguing. And so History Highway, that's when you talk about me being a television host, that's what I'm doing now. Early on, I did a show, Music City Today was the first show that I co-hosted, and we would interview people like Charlie Pride and Brooks and Dunn, Alan Jackson. So I got a chance to interview a lot of people. I interviewed the group Shenandoah. Remember the group Shenandoah?
I remember
Marty
them,
Raven.
yes.
Yeah, Marty Raven in that group. Well, years later, after I interviewed Marty and the boys for that show, then I wound up doing a TV show as a guest myself, and I was singing, and Charlie Daniels was the host of it, but another guest on the show was Marty Raven. So it's kind of cool how you meet people in the industry and you get a chance to kind of associate and affiliate with them. It's a fun journey to get a chance to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But from that Music City Today, I had another show that I started called Music and Entertainment Tonight. And the last four shows we recorded was with Jimmy Snow. And Jimmy Snow was the son of Hank Snow. And he and his wife took a very big interest in me. And they said, would you like to sing on the Grand Ole Opry? I said, where? and I had a song.
You're like, what?
Yeah, I had a song out at the time called "Love in Your Eyes," and it went number 4 in the nation, and did real well through Cashbox and a lot of the ones that would recognize independence. And so I said, "Well, yes." And so I got a chance to go sing on the Grand Ole Opry. I got a chance to do some shows at the Ryman Auditorium, and that to me is the grandfather of it all. I love to do work at the Ryman, beautiful building. And there's a circle where they cut the floor out in the Ryman, and they put it over in the there at the New Opry, we call it. And so I got to sing in that circle at the Ryman that had the new wood in it. But then later I got to sing at the New Opry where the old wood from the Ryman stage was there at the Opry. So at the what they call the new one now.
Mm-hmm.
And then just this past fall, my producer Kevin, who's working with us tonight on the cameras and everything. We went
He's doing a great job, by the way. So big shout out to him.
And we went to the Grand Ole Opry for the Josie Awards. And I was nominated for 3 things there. It was Vocalist of the Year for Americana category. And then my music video came up for 2 best videos. I got one for the nomination for best performance in the music video, and then one just straight best music video. And so we went for those. I didn't win those particular events, but we've been fortunate. Some of our productions have picked up some film festival awards and other music awards. So since 2023 and 2024, since we started doing it in February of last year, entering these different contests and things, we've collected over 80 awards. So
Wow,
it's
amazing.
let us know that what we're doing, somebody likes it. So it's kind of encouraging to go on. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yes, it does indeed. You were going to say something, or
do what now?
you were going to say something, or
Well, the thing that we mentioned it earlier about the misunderstanding sometimes about Loretta Lynn and the movie and things like that. When the misconcept of when have you made it, and it doesn't it looks easy for the somebody sitting on the outside looking in. Sometimes they see these awards and they think it's kind of that's easy. You're rolling in the dough. There's a friend of mine that drag races a lot, and then we were talking about this past Sunday, and there's another guy sitting there that does a lot of car shows, and so they have thousands and thousands of dollars tied up in their cars, and they'll race. And the guy at the drag that does the drag racing, he said, "Well, yeah, not only do I have thousands tied up in the car just to get out there and race, then I get there and I have to pay an admission fee. I mean, an entry fee to compete." And
uh-huh.
so that's exactly what you have to do with all these festivals and everything I'm involved in. There's an entry fee. So I have to pay these entry fees. A lot of these associations you have to join and then pay an entry fee. So it's very expensive to do this. I would not wish it on my worst enemy when it comes to the expense of it, but that's part of it. That's part of what's called the business. If you're going to make money, that's part of what you have to do is invest back into it,
Yeah,
and
spend
that's
money to make money. That's the
you
whole
have
theory
to.
of it.
You have to, and it's a little painful sometimes, especially for an old country boy that was I could you twist that penny till you hear it squeak. You don't want to give it up too quick, but you have to invest in yourself because you become that product, and that's hard to get used to. Is you're the product and you're selling yourself. So uh, I think we need to kind of jump to a product that I have. Uh,
Right.
I'd like to, I'd like to tell you about, you keep mentioning the Muscle Shoals sound.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I guess, is the comeback road I mentioned earlier. It's a very important piece of that. The music business has changed. You and I kind of touched on that a little bit. The music business has changed tremendously. Country music is now pop music. It just doesn't have the same sound it used to
Or
when
or
Waylon
pop mu-
Jennings.
or pop music is country music. Just like
Right.
Beyonce. It's like I scratch my head. I'm like,
Yeah, you can't tell the
I'm like
difference in the
this.
two. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't tell
exactly.
the difference. So you can't
Right.
tell the difference. So
No, you
it's
can't. But the big difference is that Muscle Shoal sound will be the big difference with Rick Revel. We'll get that in just 1 minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundWeb Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warming author Mia Wilson. See you missing. Also brought to you Illuminatical, think tank of the future. The Sweet Summers by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David on Amazon, and High 10 Music. Check out the latest at high10music.com. We'll be back with the multi-talented Rick Revel of that Muscle Shoal sound after this timeout. We're back to multi-talented singer, songwriter, actor, author, TV host Rick Revel, the Mike Wagner Show, and he's got that Muscle Shoal sound. And getting right back into it, you do everything: the title track, Hard Times and Deep, and She's a Bad Girl, and of course the Father of the Blues. I mean, you got the whole gamut right there.
well, and it's telling the story of Muscle Shoals Sound and kind of the birth of the music in that neck of the woods. Where it all began for me on my journey down to Muscle Shoals. I had worked in Nashville for all these years. I had a recording studio, a music row, so deeply entrenched into the music industry in Nashville, and felt that's what was where I should be because that's where all my heroes had made it in the music business. And I had this friend that kept coming up from the Muscle Shoals, Florence area, John David Thompson, and he'd come up to the Mike Kent Civil War show, and I'd always have a booth there set up and be selling some of my Civil War music because I've always been involved in history, as we talked about. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd have my booth there selling some of my items, and John David, I've done 15 albums over the years, so he'd always buy a new album. That was his thing. He'd come by the booth and buy a new album and compliment me, and we'd have a good laugh or two. And he'd always say, "You need to come to Florence, Alabama, and the Muscle Shoals. I'm going to introduce you to Jimmy Johnson. My wife, uh, her aunt, is married to Jimmy Johnson." And I said, "Jimmy Johnson?" And he says, "Yeah, the Jimmy Johnson that recorded Sweet Home Alabama for Leonard Skinner." And I said,
The
"Oh,
classic, yes.
yeah." I said, "Oh." And in the song Sweet Home Alabama, it mentions, and the Swampers too. Well, the Swampers, Jimmy Johnson was a member of the Swampers, and the Swampers started Muscle Shoals Sound Studio, which is on the album cover right there. As you can see on the album cover, that's Muscle Shoals Sound, the ton of them. Bob Seger cut that good old time rock and roll in that studio.
I
So
remember that he was talking about a lot Muscle Shoals. In fact, I'm inspired to go to Muscle Shoals one day just to check out that studio. That's on my bucket list.
yeah, that should be the Fame Studio is still there that Rick Hall started. The Swampers started out with Rick Hall as the Muscle Shoals the rhythm section. They were the rhythm section early on, and then they branched off on the own and become known as the Swampers. The Muscle Shoals Sound Studio, which Jimmy was affiliated with, cut so many big hits, and so it was like, yeah, I want to meet this guy. I really got to meet him. Of course, he was up in his years by then. He was in the retirement age range, and so he was still recording, still involved, but not as much. But he was still involved, and I said, I've got to meet this guy. So this was in 2018. The event takes place always the 1st of December every year. The Mike Kent show does. So this was like December of 2018. I said, John David, set it up. I want to go and visit with Jimmy Johnson. So the appointment was set the first part of 2019. And John David calls with a very sad tone in his voice. And he said, we're going to have to postpone the trip. Jimmy has fallen. He's taken ill. He's fallen in his home. He's in
Oh,
the
wow.
hospital, and we'll try to reschedule when he gets out of the hospital. Well, it never happened. It went from bad to worse, and he passed away, and I never got to meet him.
I'm so
And
sorry.
so I thought, well, that's a missed opportunity, and I felt bad for his wife, Miss Becky, that all this took place. It was an unexpected thing. And I just put this behind me. I thought, well, I'll never, get a chance to go down there. And John David was really wanting me to come down there. I had written this book in the hills of Tennessee, and he said, I want you to do a book tour. Please come down here. So in January of 2020, I decided to go ahead and do a little swing through there to sell some books. And he said, while you're here, I want you to meet Miss Becky. She's dying to meet you. She feels bad that she didn't get to meet you before. She feels bad that you didn't get to meet Jimmy. Please come down here and let's do this. So we did. She took us on this huge tour. She took us all the different places that Jimmy had played, like Fame and stuff. And then she took me here to the one Muscle Shoals Sound studio, and she took me to that one and got a chance to make the tours, see where all the history was made musically. The
Hmm.
recording consoles are still there. The old analog reel to reels are still in there. It's just like,
Oh, yeah.
wow.
The reel to
Oh,
reels. I wish I had one right now. I need
oh,
authenticity. Real
oh
reels.
man,
I
had
miss
a
that
nice
shit.
warm sound. They really did. And so I got a chance to see all this, and we were traveling in a van, looking at everything. And so I had a CD with me from my show. I'd already been working on my show, History Highway. And so I popped the CD into the player and I said, I want you to hear this. And so she listened to my song. It is the theme song of the show called of History Highway. And as she listened to it, she said, "Oh man, that song has bone." And I said, "Song has bone? What is that?" And so she began to explain to me what Jimmy used to say. She said Jimmy would hear a song, and if he ever said that song has bone, you know he likes it. And you know that it's a hit song regardless of who sings it, who plays it. That song's good to the bone. And I said,
That
"Wow,
song
I've
has
never heard that
bone.
before."
I never heard of. That's a good one. That
And I thought
song
that's
has
I was
bone.
like, I thought that's kind of cool. So she said, I want you to meet Billy Lawson. And I said, well, who is he? And she said, well, he started out very young in the industry. He was a protege of Jimmy's. and he has now gone on to own his own studio called the Wishbone Studio.
Oh, nice.
So she got on the phone, called him, and he said, "Come on." So we went over there, and when we opened the doors, the guitar playing was, oh, it was incredible. I thought Leonard Skinner was sitting in there playing, and it was Jimmy just playing some licks on a song that they were recording. So I went in and got to meet him, played him History Highway, and once he heard the song, he felt pretty much the same way. That he said, "Yeah, I'll work with you. If you want to produce some songs here, I'd love to work with you."
Uh-huh.
So I left and we went back and started working on some songs, kicking some ideas around. I came back and did a History Highway story on Muscle Shoals sound and the how Muscle Shoals became a music center. And a lot of people in the world have heard the music but don't really know about Muscle Shoals, unless you're an aficionado that reads all the liner notes. If you read the liner notes on an LP, you might know it was cut in Muscle Shoals. But the modern today, a lot of people don't know about Muscle Shoals. It's
Or
kind of a
or
best
the
kept
things
secret.
or the things just like, internet cafe or whatever it is. It's
Right.
like they don't appreciate the classic music that you and I and just about a lot of us are involved in. In fact, I was talking about how vinyl is making a comeback, and I wish I could turn my laptop over to my vinyl record right now, but right now it's stationary right now at this time. So yeah, it's like my family got me an actual turntable, and I'm starting playing records again. It's like, God, I miss it.
Yeah, well, and if you'd like to have, we actually did it on a CD, and we have LPs of Muscle Shoals sound because I wanted it to have that warm feel, and I want people to go back the nostalgia thing of how the music used to sound, but it's modernized. I mean, yes, it has a traditional sound, but it's new lyrics, it's fresh lyrics, telling new stories about what took place. So from the History Highway episode that I made about Muscle Shoals, John David kept talking about a W.C. Handy, and he's known as the father of the blues.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to do a story on him, and so in the Muscle Shoals Sound episode, I wanted to do a feature on him. Well, I was staying in a hotel that night,
Mm-hmm.
getting ready for the show the next day, and I got to thinking I'd like to sing something. We're going to film on the front porch of the cabin where he was born, where
Oh,
WC was
nice.
born. So it's going to be cool. And I said, man, it wouldn't be cool if I was singing a song about WC Handy there. So I wrote a song that night. And next morning I got up and I had all of it pretty much finished except for another verse. And I got thinking, well, I need to put this other verse in there. So got everything kind of printed out. I had to use cue cards, because it's brand new songs. I'm having to come up with a way to have cue cards and everything. And so I get out there and I sing the song, and it catches fire too. So I thought, well,
Nice.
this is going to be definitely the first song to cut. So we cut it in the studio, and then on the way back from working that day back to Tennessee, it's a 3-hour drive from Muscle Shoals to my home. I started coming up with the idea for that Muscle Shoals sound song. And so I had my first two songs, went back down to Billy's and cut them, and did that the first part of 2023. And I entered Muscle Shoals, the Father of the Blues, in the Mississippi Music Awards. And believe it or not, that dadgun song, it won the Best Mississippi Blues Award. And it
Nice. That
blew
is so
me
nice.
away. It blew me away. I never expected it. And some of the people that I beat out, I took Kevin with me this past year, this in 2024. I took Kevin with me, he and his wife Terry, and my wife Cheryl. We all went down there together, and of course, it's always a long shot because here I am, kind of an outsider, and I go in. I'm more from a country, southern rock, outlaw country guy, and I'm doing blues, and I'm competing with real blues guys,
Mm-hmm.
and so southern. I did the one Hard Times in the Deep South this year, and it won
Oh
best
my
miss.
goodness.
And it's like I won it 2 years in a row, and it's like I don't know what's happening here. I really don't know what's happening. But we've captured that Muscle Shoals sound. Billy Lawson is an incredible musician and producer. I've got a chance to play some of the instruments on the songs too,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a collaborative thing where we put this together. But we've captured that Muscle Shoals sound, what made Muscle Shoals great, we were able to capture that very sound for this album. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you buy this, you're going to think, man, this sounds like it does have that feel of Leonard Skinner. I've got
Mm-hmm.
a song on there called "Southern Man in a Strange Land." It's the single that's out right now. It has that feel of Hank Jr. and Charlie Daniels. It's got that rebel feel, that that feel that Hank would capture, that gives you that grit. And matter of fact, in the studio, Wishbone Studio, where I'm recording, believe it or not, Hank Jr. cut 2 albums in that studio.
How do you like that? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Wow.
So it's just a pretty incredible journey that I've been on. And for an old country boy that's on his comeback trail to be able to do all the things I'm getting to do right now, I feel that, the Lord's blessing me. So
Mm-hmm. And,
it's kind of
and so
crazy.
and certainly bless you as well too. And plus a couple more songs from in there, like "I'm a Son of a Moonshiner," "The Cowboy Blues," "Sweet Southern Lady," and "Singing River." You can tell more about those.
Yeah, Singing River. I played it. I've got CDX in Nashville that's working with me on radio distribution, and I'll tell you the reaction when I played it for him this week. When I played that one on Monday to him, we were trying to pick out our next single. He says, "Man, you talking about nostalgia?" And it's a ballad. It's a slow ballad. It's the only real slow song on there.
Uh-huh.
But he said the people that love Skinner, and because the song talks about the plane crash that some of the people in Skinner were killed in,
Oh
it
yeah.
talks about that. But the Tennessee River was named by the Cherokee Indians, and they called it the Singing River. They call it the Tennessee, and the
Oh.
Tennessee translated into the Singing River. So they called it the Singing River. And so that's what the song's about. That's where the title comes from. And so we tell the story about the different ones that's passed on there, and the river is singing to them. It's singing a sad song about them. The river singing that they miss all these people that have passed on and gone to the great beyond. So that's the essence of what the song's about. But I want to jump back to another song you mentioned, which is "Son of a Moonshiner."
"Son of a Moonshiner." Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, it's based on a true story from there. Once again, we're utilizing history to tell a story. The storyline's about the Dawson family. The Dawson family is one of those unknown names, but everybody's heard of Sheriff Buford Pusser, Walking Tall. Remember the movie Walking Tall?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
"Walking Tall." I remember that one. Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the movie came out several years ago. Then they had a new revised version of it recently, but in the last 10 years. But the original movie was based on the true story of Sheriff Buford Pusser, and Joe Don Baker played in the original. And it tells the story about a man that faces what's called the Dixie Mafia or the State Line Mafia. And believe it or not, one of the kingpins of that was a DeWitt Dawson. He was the king of the bootleggers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's story that comes from the people that live in Florence and Muscle Shoals, Alabama. So this is where the family grows up, is in that area. And they would run moonshine up into Tennessee and were selling it in the McNairy County area as well as other surrounding areas. DeWitt had a brother called Pride Dawson. Pride had a son called Billy Ray Dawson. And at
Huh.
age and at age 12, Billy Ray would get in his daddy's hot rod Oldsmobile at age 12. Couldn't even see over the dashboard. He would sit on a pillow and had a wooden block on his shoe or his boot to push down the accelerator. And he would run shine up into Tennessee at age 12.
Oh my goodness. In a
So in
hot
this,
rod.
yeah. And so this reminds you much of what you would see in the movie Walking Tall, and if you the old Thunder Road with Robert Mitchum. It
Mm-hmm.
reminds you of some of those old things. So when we shot the music video about the Son of a Moonshiner, I wanted that feel. So as I'm writing the song, I'm seeing this music video in my head as I'm writing the song. So as it all comes out, it happens at the same time. So we were able to start shooting it in July, and we just finished it up just a few weeks ago. And we premiered it just recently, this week. And Son of a Moonshiner not only tells a true story, but it's very fascinating. And the way it's shot, you're going to think that these scenes come out of a Hollywood movie. There's chase scenes. There are chase scenes where we have police cars and patrol cars chasing this 61 Oldsmobile, this hot rod Oldsmobile, all over the countryside, and they're throwing gravel, and it does. It looks like the scenes out of a Hollywood movie.
Makes you think of Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, it does. It does. It has that feel to it. It really does.
It
And
certainly
then
does.
again, back to Jerry Reed.
It certainly does. You're right, and certainly all the way back to the greats and being great yourself. Working when you find that Muscle Shoals sound and all your works at Rick.
Well, go to Rick Revel .com is where you find kind of my acting things, and then rickrevelmusic.com is all the music related items. So we have our acting and things in one and all of our music on another. So rickrevel.com for the acting and rickrevelmusic.com for all the music. But both lead to the place where you can order the CDs and the different items. We have about 7 or 8 CDs available on the website. We have our books, have T-shirts, a lot of items. If you'd like to order, and believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, that's how we support ourselves, is through sales. We get it no other way. The streaming and the radio airplay is not like it used to be in the old days. You don't get rich on that. The only way you can really make money in the business anymore is by merchandise sales or your live performances.
Or by your vinyl works. And what's even
you got to buy.
You autograph it and you can sell for more than that.
Yep. So you kind of know the game, Mike. You know how it works. You have to, like, you have your merchandise to sell there. Right. We have to have it too.
And by the way,
and I like that. I like that cushion.
This is number 1, by the way. It's number
I like it.
1, yes. And of course, we want everybody to go to Amazon.com, check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And if you're interested, email me, themikewagnershow@gmail.com, themikewagnershow@gmail.com. And for you ladies, buy a tote bag and go shopping.
Yeah, there you go. But you do know, Mike, that I don't know that I could really have one of those cushions in my house, because me and my wife, we like to have pillow fights, and that could be considered a dangerous weapon in my household.
That'd be perfect. In fact,
yeah, it can be a dangerous weapon in my household.
Well, I'm trying to read the label. See, I'm not hurt. Yeah. Look at that. Oh, it's so comforting. I'll tell you. Even my dog can sleep on it too. So
there you go.
Comfy. There you go. Got some great gift ideas, by the way, with the multi-talented Rick Revel of that Muscle Shoals sound and more here on the Mike Wagner Show. Rick, just a few more things. What else can we expect in 2025 and beyond?
Well, we're going to continue on with the album. We just released it in August, although it took us 18 months to finish it. It took a long time to get it done, because it's kind of like the old Johnny Cash song, one piece at a time. It took us a long time to get the old album built. But once we did, we released it August 15th, and so we're going to try to push it for the next up to August 15th of this coming year. So you'll see some more music videos kicked around the idea of Love at First Kiss is one of the songs on there. So we're going to do something a little more commercial next time. The Son of a Moonshiner is just coming out in January on radio. So be listening on your local radio station for Son of a Moonshiner, and it hits YouTube this week. So watch the music video. It'll hit Vivo, which is also on YouTube. You'll see that coming up. So support us by watching our new video, Son of a Moonshiner, and our single that's out right now, Southern Man in the Strange Land. It's still up there. So support it. Support our music by liking and sharing it. Like it, click like button, follow buttons. We can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter or X. You can find us on all the different social formats. So friend us, follow us, keep up with what we're doing. We're trying to create new original music that sounds traditional and will make you think of the good old days.
You got that right, and we do enjoy those days. And who you consider biggest influence in your career?
My biggest, starting out, like I mentioned earlier, was the old singing cowboys. But as time passed on and country music began to expand and grow, Hank Jr. had a big influence. Charlie Daniels had huge influence. Merle Haggard, Lord have mercy. I love Merle.
Oh,
Merle
with those
Haggard.
silver wings. Yes.
Oh, love some. I had the Working Man Blues. I still do his song in my show set. So love him. And one of the forgotten heroes, old Jimmy Rogers. He was a blues yodeler. So I do some of
Uh-huh.
his old songs. And so I have to say and identify one person. That's hard. I have a lot of influences in my music. As you hear me sing, you're going to hear a lot of different people in this melting pot that I pull out and call Muscle Shoals Sound. We're considered a multi-genre artist because we can do blues, we can do outlaw country, we do southern rock, we just do straight on country, we can do bluegrass. So it's kind of fun being from Tennessee. You're not tied down to having to do just one thing. Being born in the South, I feel very fortunate because the majority of the music that you listen to today has a birthright connected to the South. So,
And very indeed as well. Very important. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
do I now?
What's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Best advice. Best advice is never give up. Which is the common thing to say. Giving up is your worst nightmare because you may give up right before you get to the finish line, and that's not the time to do it. I wake up every morning, and that demon is inside of you telling you to quit. And the older you get, the more it wants to, that old demon voice says quit. So you don't quit, you keep moving forward. And one best advice I can give you, I've been a Christian since I was 12. If you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, you better. Especially in today's world, you better.
And
So
that's a
that's my
big
best advice.
amen to that. That's a big amen.
Yeah, so that's my best advice.
You got that right. With the multi-talented Rick Revel of that Muscle Shoals Sound here on the Mike Wagner Show. Rick, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot.
It's been
Looking
great.
forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back. Once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your works?
All right. Just make sure you check us out on rickrevel.com, rickrevelmusic.com, Facebook. Just track us down. We love to be your friend.
Absolutely, indeed. Once again, Rick, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. We wish you all the best. And Rick, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
All right, bro. Appreciate it.